guys, so in today's DIY I'm going to show you how to make this duct tape Pow headband, and I enjoyed making it so much I can't wait to make more. And let's go ahead without further ado and go straight to the DIY. For this DIY you're going to need some blue and red duct tape. You will also need a headband, a pair of scissors, an X-Acto knife, a black permanent marker, a printout of Pow and the background, and you'll also need the cutting board underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the process of me cutting out this Pow and the background for the Pow. I got mine from looking it up on Google search. I just picked the one that I really liked. Then I decided to copy it, post it into Paint, make it the size that I wanted, and then once I was happy with the size that I wanted, I just printed it out. So I decided to go with Pow because it's like one of your classic comic book, I guess you could call it your comic book analogies, is Pow. It's one of the more recognized ones in comic books, and I wanted to do something really fun and comic booky with duct tape, and this was something I thought would be fun to make. So you can see here where I'm just kind of cutting out around the edges, and doing the lettering is a little bit harder because you have all of the little individual things you have to cut out to make it actually look like the letter. So once I got the outline done, I went back through with my X-Acto knife and kind of used that to help get all of the inside parts of it. Now the circle is a little bit harder with an X-Acto knife, and you can definitely tell now where the lettering is starting to come into play. So once I got all of that done, that's what that's going to look like, except for, of course, it's going to be done with duct tape. So I decided to make my background blue. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our blue duct tape and we're going to start measuring that out. Now, so I know I'm measuring it out properly, I always put the piece on top of it, and then I kind of eyeball how many pieces of duct tape from there I'm going to need. And since this has so much pointiness, I decided instead of making it 2 that I was going to make it 3, just to be on the safe side, just to make sure that I was getting plenty of duct tape in between. So I'm going to measure out 6 pieces of duct tape. And like I said, depending on how big you want it will depend on how much you need to cut. So once I've gotten those all cut out, I'm just going to very neatly place them on top of each other to make one big piece with those 3 pieces. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing on the back. Now you can see where I did double check to make sure I had plenty of room for my design. So I'm going to very carefully just do the same thing on the back so that it's now double-sided instead of single-sided. So you can see there where it's double-sided in blue. Now that I have that the way I want it, I'm just going to go ahead and put my design on there, and I'm going to trace it out with that permanent marker. Now you do need to be careful because these do move as you trace them. So you do want to make sure that you are keeping up with the tracing as you do it. So once I get my tracing done, and it's the way I like it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I was starting to cut it with that to kind of give it a more edginess, until I started trying to pull it apart and realized this was not working for me, and it was causing more trouble than it was helping, and it was taking a lot longer, especially since I had 3 pieces connected. In certain areas it was just way too thick. So I finally gave up on trying to do it with my X-Acto knife and just took my scissors and just started cutting out the design instead. It might not give you as nice of a straight line as you may want, but it still looks as nice as it would have if you used an X-Acto knife. And it's definitely a lot easier to do it that way than to try to keep going back and recutting the same cut 3 and 4 times. So you can see here where I'm just tracing out those lines. I'm just following them when I'm doing my cutting so that I can get that piece of duct tape to look exactly like the printout that I had. So there you go. You can see a picture of how that looks now that that is all cut out. And then we can go ahead and set that one aside and start working on our POW. So I decided to do POW in red. And I'm going to essentially do the same thing. I'm going to measure it out, put the POW on top so that I can cut it to the correct size I need it to be. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut my second piece just like that, because I really don't need more than 2 pieces since POW is small enough to fit on the middle of that. So I'm just going to tape those onto each side, and it does take some practice. You're not going to get it right the first time because let's face it, nobody's perfect. So doing the POW is going to be a little bit more difficult than it was doing your background, because obviously there is a lot more detail coming into the POW than there was doing the background of it. So you're going to want to make sure to get as much of the detail as possible, and you're going to want to get in between everything. And as you can see, I did kind of have to freehand that W a little bit because it was so small, the bottom part of it. So I did freehand that a little bit just to get it the way I wanted it. And then you're just going to take your scissors and go through and cut out the essential outline. And then I go back and I always do the details second, because that does take the longest when you're doing all of it. So you can see where I'm just going through and I'm doing all the detail part of this. And it is going to look a little bit different than your cutout will from the computer, because obviously once you trace it, it's not going to trace exactly perfectly. So then I use my X-Acto knife to do that center part of the P, and I did have a lot of difficulty with it. I did have to do it a couple of times to get it the way I wanted it, and then I finally just got frustrated with it and pulled out my scissors, and I used my scissors to finish off the middle of the P and then to do the O and POW. So now that I've got that the way I want it, I decided I wanted a black outline to it. So I went ahead and I took my black permanent marker again, and I just kind of traced the outline of that POW and then put in the little bit of detail so you can definitely tell it says POW and it doesn't say anything else. So now that I've gotten that done, you can definitely tell it looks more like POW and it looks better. So now is the time where we can go ahead and we can connect the two. So I'm going to place this on there and kind of position it where I want it before I decide to tape it down. And I'm just going to take my red duct tape again, and I'm going to cut a thin piece off of that duct tape to kind of attach that POW to the background. That way, if you wanted to change it in the future from POW to something else, because you're tired of looking at the POW for whatever reason, you can always go back, just pull the tape off of it, and redo it however you'd like. Or if you decide you don't like those colors anymore, you can always redo it with that as well. So I'm just rolling my duct tape, I'm putting it on the back where you can't see it, and then I'm just taping it right down to that background so that it sticks together. I didn't want it to look too perfect because obviously it's not going to be an exact science, but this is how I got it to look. And then you're going to take your headband and you're going to attach the POW wherever you desire on your headband. And all I basically did with this part was I cut out 2 strips of duct tape, and then I just taped the back of it onto that headband. It doesn't have to be an exact science where you put it. It's all about your own personal preference. And then I flipped it over and I made sure to cut out any showing duct tape that was showing so that nobody will see it and nobody will know but you. So here's your up close picture now that that's done. I hope you guys enjoyed this and I look forward to seeing yours. So I hope you guys enjoyed that DIY on this headband and enjoy making your own as much as I enjoyed making mine. Make sure to follow me on Instagram And send me pictures when you make yours because I love seeing them. Also, make sure to like me on Facebook so that you can see pictures of future DIYs before they go live on YouTube. Also, make sure to check out my Etsy shop because you never know what's going to end up on there. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.